excited to be back with these granny all the way ornaments. These match the stockings, and we've got a ton of fun designs all in one collection. These are super fun and quick to make. They make nice gifts if you just want to hang one from, a wine bottle or from a gift bag, or even just adding it to a gift card if you're doing that for teachers or friends or coworkers. These are so fun to make, plus handmade is always incredible. For this project today, we will be using the Brava Tweed worsted weight yarn in the, this is Wren, I think this is boysenberry, mink, and then wasabi. But you can really use any colors you want. You can customize to the colors of Christmas in your home. I've seen a lot of popular pink and purples, and that's fun as well. You will want a 3.15 inch, just over 3-inch ornament for this. Now, if you go with a different size, you can always go down a hook size or yarn size and see how it works out. I haven't tried that yet, but with such a small project, if you don't have anything else, it's worth experimenting. However, I have included the link for this in the pattern. You can find them at most craft stores. And the ones I'm using today are just regular ornaments that I bought in this color. So they're not specifically for crafting. I believe I picked them up at my local box store. And so you can even look at the ornaments you have and see if you want to maybe, update them, cover them with the granny stitch. We also need a size H 5mm crochet hook, some scissors to cut those ends, and a yarn needle to weave them in. This is super fun, so let's go ahead and dive right in and make ourselves a handmade granny stitch ornament. Now for this pattern, I'm not going to be walking through every single color work of all of these varieties of ornaments. I'm going to just show you a couple and teach you every concept you need to work any one of these that you want. It's just about color changing and switching between those colors in different ways, but it's all the same stitch count no matter what ornament you're choosing. So the stitch count and the stitches remain the same. The only thing that changes is that color work. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to give you the tools you need to create any one of these ornaments. Now the first ornament I'm going to show you will be this, but I'm going to be doing it in a different color. It's written in this color B, and I've labeled each of these by the letter. That way if you're switching out the colors to be a different color, you're just going to go by that color. Because a lot of times if I say red and then you're using blue, it's hard to get that mindset around it. So this is labeled color B, and the Wren is labeled color A, and that's the same for every single ornament that we do. The colors of the yarn will remain the same label. So this will be color A and this will be color B. We're going to be making this diamond stocking with the color A and B and walking through each step. These are only 11 rounds. In the ad-free PDF, which you can purchase on Etsy or Ravelry or my shops, this includes some really amazing charts for every single one of these ornaments, and it does include all 11 rounds. So if you want to, for this, you can get these amazing charts as well as the written instructions in those ad-free PDFs. Now I also include a color your own chart in that PDF so that you can use your imagination and color your own charts for each one, or a blank chart to make up your own type of design you want to do. So we're going to go ahead and get started with round 1 using the color A. To get started with round 1, we are going to create a magic ring, place our hook in it, and do a chain 1, like a slip stitch. Now we're going to be working inside this ring, and I'm going to start with what's called a stacked single crochet. That's where we insert our hook into the ring, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and now we're going to go back into that left bar, yarn over and pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through 2. Now that is a stacked single crochet. That's what we're going to be starting every single round with. It's just a little bit cleaner and I really like it. However, if you don't want to do the stacked single crochet, you can go ahead and do a chain 2. But I'm also going to grab a stitch marker and throw it into the top of this first stitch. That way I know what I'm working into when I get to the end of this round. And now we're going to do 11 double crochets into this magic ring. So at the end of round 1, we will have a total of 12 stitches. Now once we have worked 12 stitches, we're going to go ahead and take that tail end and tighten that down. And then we can move our stitch marker and join to the very first stitch in this round. And now we're going to turn our work. You can pull this tail end tight and you can weave it in if you want, or you can wait until a little bit later to weave it in. Now we're turning our work, and we're going to be working in between the stitches for this round. So in that very first space between the first stitches of this round, we're going to start by doing a stacked single crochet. And then we're going to mark that stitch, and we're going to do a double crochet into the same. Now between the next two stitches, we are going to be working into that space and working 2 double crochets. And that's going to be our repeat around. So we're just going to be working in between each stitch, doing 2 double crochets all the way around, which means this brings us to a total of 24 stitches after round 2. Now at the end of round 2, we're going to move that stitch marker, join to the top of that stacked single crochet with a slip stitch, and turn our work. Now for round 3, for some of these ornaments, I'll come show you how to work this in color changing. So we're going to do another ornament together for the color work portion of it. But for this one, we actually are staying with our color A. We're going to go into that very first space with a stacked single crochet. And then we're going to do 2 more double crochets into that same space. So here's where our granny groups come in play. So we're going to go to the next space. So we have the groups of 2 stitches, and now we're going to go to the next space and double crochet 3. So each granny group is 3 double crochets. Now we're going to go into the next space and do 3 double crochets. And this will be our repeat all the way around, and at the end of round 3 we will have a total of 36 stitches. Now at the end of round 3, we are going to talk about color changing before we finish this last yarn over. So I've done a double crochet, but I've stopped when I have 2 loops remaining on the hook. And so before doing that very last yarn over to complete that double crochet, I'm going to bring in my new color and yarn over with the new color. And that way I am set up and I'm ready to go with my new color for the next round. So we will join and then do a slip stitch to join with our new color, and then we will turn our work. And notice when I did join with a new color, because we're going to come across this, sometimes you're going to be joining when you are on a wrong side round. So right now we're on a right side round. If you're joining on a wrong side round, you just always need to make sure that the tail end is on the side of the wrong side. So if this was the wrong side, we would keep the tail end to the front, but we're keeping it to the back, and then we're going to turn our work, and we're going to be working into that very first space with a stacked single crochet. We're going to do 2 more double crochets into the space, but when we get to that very last yarn over for that double crochet, we're changing colors for the next group. So we want to go ahead and grab the color A. We're bringing it up from the wrong side of the work, so it's on the front of our work, and we're going to yarn over and pull through. And we're going to be keeping this tail end of the previous color on the front of our work, on the wrong side of our work. That way it all looks nice and neat. Now we're going to go to the next space and we're going to double crochet 3 with the color A, but we're switching back and forth for this entire round between the groupings, the granny groupings. We're going to be switching colors. So I'm going to do this again. We're going to bring up the color B, yarn over to finish that last stitch of that group for the color A, drop the color A to the wrong side of the work, and then work the next space. You might also notice that I am floating my yarn on the wrong side of this work. And what that means is I'm just letting it sit. It's not too tight. I can still put a finger in there. We don't want it too tight, but it's just floating or laying across the wrong side of my work. And then I keep working as I switch colors. And so we'll have strands on the inside. You won't see them on the outside of the colors that we stopped working. We're just carrying our yarn all the way around for this round. On the next round, we'll talk about how we're going to be catching these strands to make sure that they stay hidden. So just keep changing colors between color A and color B every other granny group all the way around. Now at the end of round 3, we are going to be changing back to the color B because we're going to be working that one as the first stitch of the next round, and then join to that very first stacked single crochet and turn your work. Now for this round, we're just going to be working a round of the color B in the granny groups. So we're going to let the color A just hang out while we work this round. We're not going to fasten it off. So we'll start by doing a stacked single crochet into that first space, and then 2 more double crochets, and then we're simply going to work 3 double crochets into each stitch around. But the one thing I want you to pay attention to is whenever you enter the space that you're working into, you're making sure that you are entering underneath any of these strands. What that does is it catches them and brings them up so that they don't interfere with that beautiful granny stitch and group work. So whenever you are working the 3 double crochets into the next space, we want to make sure we are going underneath any of those floating strands, and that really kind of cleans it up, makes it nice and neat, and it also makes it so the strands that are traveling along the back aren't as long as they were previously. So keep working this round 4. Keep working this round 5 and then come on back. Now at the end of round 5, we are going to switch back to the color A, so we're just going to lift it up, yarn over with it. You don't need to pull it too tight on the back. And then we're going to slip stitch to join. And then you can tighten down a little bit if you want, and we'll catch that strand on the back here when we start working in the round. So now we're going to turn our work, and we're going to start round 6 by doing a stacked single crochet with the color A, and then 2 more double crochets into the same space. And then we're going to stop and change colors for the next granny group. And then we'll just keep going back and forth between color A and color B for those granny groups all the way around. Changing the color on that last yarn over of that last double crochet in that granny group. Now at the end of round 6, we're not going to change colors at the end of the round. We're going to keep in the color B and slip stitch to join. And notice sometimes I like to flip my work inside out when I'm working certain rounds, and then I'll flip it to work the other rounds. It just makes it more comfortable for me, but you can really work them however you want. But now we're going to start round 7, and round 7 is going to be a repeat of round 5. So we're simply using the color B and doing 3 granny groups in every single space around. Now at the end of round 7, we're still going to join with the color B, and keeping the color B, we are going to turn. Now we're going to have to carry this color A quite a ways, so if you want, you can kind of lay it on top here and you can work over it so the carrying is not so long, or you can fasten off and reattach if you want, if you don't want that to float on the inside that long. When I work back around, I'm also going to catch it here, which will help as well. But I am going to do a stacked single crochet and double crochet 2. But of course, before we finish that second one, we are going to yarn over with the color A, leaving the color B to the wrong side of the work, and then do 3 double crochets into that next. And then change back to the color A for the next granny group. So for this round, we've started with the color B, working the first granny group, and then we switch to the color A for the next granny group, and that's what we're going to be doing all the way around, switching from the color B to the color A until we get done with round 8. Now at the end of round 8, we can join with a slip stitch with the color A, and it's time for us to fasten off color B since we are done with that color for now. And you can go ahead and weave in that end if you want, but we will need to weave in any extra ends at the end of the next round. So we're going to turn our work, and we're going to do a stacked single crochet into the very first space, and then 2 double crochets, and then we're going to be working the color A all the way around. So we're just working each granny group in the color A all the way around for round 9. Now at the end of round 9, we are going to slip stitch to join and then turn our work. Now at this point, you will want to make sure you weave in all the ends. If you've done something that has a bit more color work to it, you're changing through different colors of yarn, now is the time you want to go ahead and weave in any ends that you can. The last 2 rounds of every single ornament will be worked in the color A, so the only yarn attached at this point should be the color A. We're going to start with a stacked single crochet and then a double crochet into the same space. And we're only going to be working 2 double crochets per space all the way around for round 10. And this is going to bring our stitch count back down to 24 stitches. Now at the end of round 10, before joining, go ahead and grab your ornament and place it inside the granny stitch ornament. And now we only have 1 round left to work. So we're going to finish this round. We're working on a wrong side round, and we're going to go ahead and join with a slip stitch. And that finishes round 10, and we're going to turn our work. And for round 11, we are simply going to do a stack single crochet into the very first space, and that's going to be the only stitch that we're going to work into that space. And then we're going to do 1 double crochet into each space around. That will bring our stitch count to 12, and that way we're back down to a smaller opening to close this top around the top of the ornament. So I am working these stitches with the ornament inside. All right, so now that I've worked all 12 spaces, 1 double crochet into each space, I'm going to join to the top of the first stack single crochet of the round, and then we're going to fasten off, leaving a tail so that we can finish closing this opening with a yarn needle. Now to close this opening, we are simply going to be looping through the front loop only of each stitch around. So for the remaining 12 stitches, we're going to loop through that front loop only, and then we'll be able to pull it tightly closed. Now once you've worked all the way around, you can take your tail end and you can simply pull that closed and then weave it in. And now we have a adorable diamond ornament. Let's go ahead and talk about how to do a variation of the color work so that we have all the skills that we need. Now I'm going to be showing you the alternating diamonds ornament. The reason why is this one has a couple more skills to learn than we learned on the previous one. And we're going to start with one of those skills right here. So this is the end of round 2. And for round 3, we are changing colors. Where before we didn't change colors quite so quick, for some of these ornaments, we will be changing colors and working round 3 with those color changes. Now we are currently looking at the wrong side of our work for round 2. So to change colors, we want to drop our yarn to the wrong side of the work, and then we're going to bring our yarn, holding it to the wrong side of the work and yarning through, pulling through for that last double crochet stitch to change to that new color, which is the color C. Then we will slip stitch to join. And this way we are always keeping the yarn that's being carried and all those tail ends on the wrong side of the work. And then we're going to turn our work, and we're going to go right into that very first space with a stacked single crochet and then 2 more double crochets. So this still is an increasing round, but we are going to be also changing colors as we do this round. It doesn't really complicate it too much because we are used to working those granny groups, and we're just still doing those granny groups into those spaces. Now for the alternating diamonds, this is the only ornament that does this, but we are not going to be changing colors quite as quickly between these granny groups. So for this very first round on round 3, I'm going to work another granny group in the color D or C. And then at the end of this granny group, I'm going to leave my yarn to the back because that's where we'll be carrying our yarn, where our tail ends are. And I'm going to grab the color A and pull that up and switch to the color A. And now I'm going to be working the color A for the next 2 spaces, so 2 granny groups. So I'm going to work the first granny group, and then the next granny group. But before we complete this granny group, we will be changing colors, and here is where we will be having longer floats. So you do not want to pull this tight. For this ornament especially, you want to be conscious of changing colors. You don't just want to pull this tight across there. You want to make sure that when you pull it through, you've still got enough space to put your whole finger through that strand. You want it to have some flexibility. You don't want it to pull the yarn tight. You want your yarn to lay nice and flat at this point. And you don't want it to cause any type of curling. So you want to make sure you have space here. We are going to be catching this on the next round like we did previously, so you also want to leave a little bit of looseness so that when we do that, it doesn't make it too tight. And now we are going to work the next 2 spaces with the color C. And then we're going to change back to the color A, being very careful not to pull this too tight. And then we're going to work the next 2 spaces with the color A. And that's the things I wanted to cover before I send you off to create any of the ornaments you want. I want to make sure you have all those skills. So this one gives us a skill of changing colors on round 3, as well as doing longer floats. I'm going to finish this round and come back for round 4. Now at the end of round 3, we can keep the color A to join, and then we're going to turn our work. And for the very first stitch in this round, we're going to be working our color A. And I know the back of this right now looks a little bit messy because I haven't woven in any of those ends, and that's okay. We don't have to do it right now. And then I'm going to do 2 more double crochets into that first space. But we're going to be changing color again. So I'm going to pull over my color C, making sure that's not too tight. And I can go ahead and work right over that color C for that next space. And this is where we're going to be changing back and forth for every other granny group between those colors. So now I'm going to go back to my color A. And this is where we're going to be making sure we are working underneath all of those floats. And this time we get to see it on the wrong side of our work. So even when working on the wrong side of your work, you want to make sure that when you insert into that granny space, you are working under any of those strands or floats, and that will help make it look nice and clean, and it makes those floats not be so far spaced apart. And so this will be for round 4, and now you have all the skills you need to complete any one of these ornaments. These ornaments can become very addicting. They're so fun to make with all the different styles. Even though we're using the same stitches, you can even make a plain one. We're just switching out the color work for lots of different looks, which is really fun to not only explore, but create for your home to make it cozy through the holidays, or for a little bit of an extra special gift for someone that you love. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and come back for some more fun projects soon.